Story time? What? What, you're going to bed now? You want a bedtime story? Okay, well what do you want to hear? What Lamore? You want a Lamore bedtime story? Okay, you big baby. I'll read you your favorite. One of Louis L'Amour's stories. Which one do you want to hear again? Which one? You're gonna have to speak louder, son. I can't hear you, I'm getting older. My hearing is not so well. I'm an old man now. Which one? Which you want to hear Pictures of the Sky by Louis L'Amour? All right, you baby. I'll go ahead and read you your bedtime story. What was it? Pirates of the Sky. Okay, very good. So you want to hear a pirate story before you go off to bed. All right. Uh, Turk Madden came in toward the coast of Eromanga at an elevation of about 3,000 feet. The Grumman amphibian handled nicely, and flying in the warm sunshine over the coral sea was enough to put anyone in a good mood, especially when Tony York and Angela waited at the end of their trip in the bungalow by Paulina Bay. A night of good company, especially Angela's, would take his worries away. The war in Asia was expanding. Someday soon, America would be involved in all this. The express freight and passenger business he had worked so hard to build would be no more. Curiously, Turk's eyes swung to the interior. The island was about only 25 miles long and perhaps 10 wide, yet it was almost unknown except for a few isolated spots along either coast. Several times he had considered taking time out to fly over the island and down its backbone. Madden shrugged. Flying freight, even when you were working for yourself, didn't leave much time or gas for exploring. When he saw Trader's Head looming up before him, he banked slightly and put the ship into a steep glide that carried it into Paulina Bay. Deftly, he banked again, swinging into the cove and trimmed the Grumman for a landing. It was then he saw the body. The ship skimmed the water, slapped slightly, and ran in toward the wharf. But Turk Madden's eyes narrowed and thoughtful. Violence in New Hebrides was bad medicine, and there, floating on the waters of the cove, almost in bay now, was the body of a native, with his head half blown away. None of York's boys came running to meet him. Instead, a white man in soiled white trousers and a blue shirt came walking down to the wharf. He was a big man, and he wore a heavy automatic in a shoulder holster. Turk cut the motor and tossed the man a line, then dropped his anchor. He was thinking rapidly, but when he stepped up on the wharf, his manner was casual. "Hello," he said. "I don't believe I've met you before. Where's York?" "York?" The big man's eyes were challenging. He lit a cigarette before he answered, then snapped the match into the water with studied insolence. "He sold out. He sold this place to me. He left 2 weeks ago." "Sold out?" Man was incredulous. "Where'd he go? Sydney?" "No," the man said slowly. "He bought passage on a trading schooner. He was going to loaf around the islands a while, then wind up in Suva or Pago. "That's funny," man said, rubbing his jaw. "He ordered some stuff from me. Told me to fly it for him. Some books, medicine, food supplies, and clothes." "Yeah," the big man said, nodded. "My name is Carshall. He told me he had some stuff coming in. My price included that." "You made a nice buy," said Turk. "Well, maybe I can do some business with you once in a while." "Yeah, maybe you can." His eyes turned to the plane. "Nice ship you got there. Those Grumman amphibs do about 200, don't they?" "Most of them," Madden said shortly. "This was an experimental job. Too expensive. So they didn't make any more. But she's a honey. She'll do 240 at top speed." "Well, You might as well come up and have a drink. No use unloading that boat right now. An hour will do. I expect you want to get away before sundown." He turned and strolled carelessly up the path toward the bungalow, and Turk Madden followed, his face expressionless. But his mind was teeming. If there was one thing that wouldn't happen, it would be Tony York selling out. Tony and Angela, he was sure, loved their little home on Paulina Bay. If they had told him that once, they had told him 50 times. Now this man, Carshall, something about his face was vaguely familiar, but Turk couldn't recall where he had seen it before. "You don't sound Dutch," Carshall said. "You're an American, aren't you?" "Sure," Turk said. "My name is Madden, Turk Madden." Instantly, he realized he made a mistake. The man's eyes came up slowly, and involuntarily they glanced quickly at the brush behind Turk. "Another guy behind me," Turk thought, but Carshall smiled. "I heard that name. Weren't you the guy who made all that trouble for Johnny Panucci back in Philly?" Sure, Turk thought, that would be it. How the devil could he ever have forgotten the name Steve Carshall? Shot his way out of the pen once. Stuck up Tudor Trust Company for $70,000, the right-hand man of Harry Whistler. "If you want to call it that," Turk said. He stepped up beside Carshall. "Johnny was a tough cookie, but he wanted to organize all the mail pilots. I was working for Uncle Sam, and nobody tells me where to get off." Carshall dropped a cigarette in the gravel path. "No," he said. "Nobody tells you, huh?" Two men had come up out of the brush with Thompson submachine guns. They looked tough. Covered all the time, Turk thought. Those guys had it on me. I must be slipping. Aloud, he said, "You boys got a nice place here." He looked around. "A right nice place." "Yeah," Carshall chuckled coldly. Lucky York was ready to sell. He mentioned up the steps. "But come on in. Big Harry will be wanting to see the guy who thumped his nose at the Panucci mob." Turk walked up the steps, and then the mosquito netting flopped from the door, and a man stepped out. He was a slim, wiry man with a narrow face. His eyes were almost white, his hair lank and blonde. He was neatly dressed in a suit of white silk, and there was a gun stuck in his waistband. "Who's this punk?" he snapped. "Didn't I tell you if you found any more to cool him off?" "This guy's different, Chief," Carshall said. "He's a flyer. Just flew in here with some stuff for York. I told him how we bought that place, and the stuff would come to us." "Oh," Big Harry Whistler sneered. "You did you?" He stepped up to the man, his white eyes narrowed. "Well, he lied. We wanted this spot, so we just moved in. Some of these damned N-words got in the way, so we wiped them out." "What about York?" Turk said. "And Angela?" Whistler's eyes gleamed. "What? What did you say? Who's this Angela?" Madden could have kicked himself for a fool. Somehow Angela York had managed to get away. "What do you mean?" Whistler snapped. "Speak up, you damn fool. Was there a woman here? We heard she left." "She had," Madden said quickly. "I didn't think." "Oh, you didn't think?" Whistler sneered. Then he wheeled, his eyes blazingly. "You idiots! Got out and find that woman. Find her if you tear the place apart. The one who finds her gets $1,000. If you don't have her by night, somebody gets killed, see?" The man was raging. His white face flushed crimson, and his small eyes glowed like white-hot bits of steel. "Take this punk away. Put him somewhere. I'll take care of him later."